Hey everyone, I'm back. I apologize for the delay. I didn't have my editing rig for quite a while, and I didn't feel like editing on this Lenovo 100S. If you're interested in how that experience was, you can check out the card above me. What I have done is built an entirely new editing rig from the ground up, and it's featuring the Core i7-6700K. I do have benchmarks ready to go, but I'm not going to put them in this video because this video is dedicated to building the PC. So I know that most of you who are subscribed to the channel already know how to do this, but it never hurts to get a nice refresher in there, and on top of that you get to see the rig being assembled from the ground up. That's kind of nice as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the building process without further ado. Got your pens and notepads ready? Alright, here we go. Here's a basic parts rundown. You'll need a Z170 motherboard, ours is the ASUS Z170A ATX board, an Intel Core i7-6700K, 16GB of 3000 MHz DDR4, in this case Geil Super Luce with white LEDs, an all-in-one CPU cooler, a reliable power supply from a reliable brand, preferably 600 watts or above, a 1TB Western Digital black hard disk drive for general storage, a PNY 120GB solid state drive for a snappy OS, Arctic Silver 5 thermal compound, a dedicated graphics card, I've gone with an R9 390 for the time being, but more on that later, and a Corsair Carbide 400C. You can check out my review of this case in the card right here. It's game time. Start with your motherboard. This ASUS Z170A is a great choice for a variety of reasons. It has a chipset which supports overclocking, plenty of voltage regulator modules, a dedicated sound driver for 5.1 channel audio, native SLI and Crossfire support, an excellent color scheme, although I did paint these heatsinks white from their previous gray. Click the card right here to check out my painting tutorial. And finally, plenty of rear I/O ports, including 5.1 audio, USB 3.1 and Type-C connectors, DVI, VGA, HDMI, and DisplayPort support, and two USB 3.0 headers accompanied by two USB 2.0 counterparts. Go ahead and grab your processor. We'll be using a Core i7-6700K, a top-of-the-line LGA 1151 CPU. It's clocked to 4 GHz out of the box and should overclock quite nicely. The 6700K packs 8 MB of L3 cache, a stock frequency of 4 GHz, which turbo boosts up to 4.2, 14nm Skylake transistor architecture, and 4 cores with hyperthreading for a total of 8 threads. With your CPU ready, pull up the lever to the right of the socket on the motherboard until the door is standing safely upright. Identify the golden triangle on the CPU itself and orient the chip so that its triangle points in the same direction as the triangle located on the board. Being extra careful, rest the CPU in the socket. Rest it. Do not force it. It will only slide in one way. Simply set the chip down atop the various pins within the socket, and then lower the retention arm once again, ensuring that the socket hinge itself secures under this screw. The arm will require additional force to latch once again. This is completely normal, no worries. The socket cover should pop right off at this point. Store this somewhere safe in case you ever need to return your motherboard. Next, it's time to install RAM. This step is very simple, but it does require a bit of unorthodox force once again. Go ahead and pull out both DIMMs and take note of the notch at the bottoms of both. These will need to be aligned with the notches in RAM slots 2 and 4 on the motherboard. With the notches aligned and the slot levers 2 and 4 pulled back, push each DIMM into its rightful place. Additional force is required. I suggest starting from one side, securing it, and then securing the other side subsequently. We're placing these in slots 2 and 4 specifically for dual channel support. Not bad so far. You've installed your CPU and RAM into this beautiful motherboard. Now we'll need our NZXT Kraken X61. This is a 280mm radiator and comes with two 140mm pulse width modulated fans. We want our air in our case flowing through our radiator, so we'll orient our fans in such a way that air is pulled through the rad and into our case, and subsequently exhausted out the back. You may also orient these fans in the opposite direction, as I've done in the past, to exhaust air out the front of the rad, but this method is not condoned by NZXT. We'll follow the rules here. Grab a hold of 8 included washers and long screws and secure the fans to the radiator. Make sure each of these is turned nice and tight. Loose fans will be loud and could break much sooner. Now it's time to start assembling all the little parts and pieces into our 400C, or whatever case you might have chosen. Start by removing the bottom basement from the 400C. These 3 screws in the back hold these into place. Grab another set of 8 washers and 8 low profile screws from the X61 bag and mount the radiator to the front of the case. Ensure each of these screws is completely secure, of course. Now grab your power supply. In my case, I've gone with, you ready for this, an EVGA 750W B280 Plus Bronze SuperNova power supply with modular capabilities. Secure the unit to the back of your case with the included screws. Grab the I/O shield that came with the motherboard and snap it into place from all 4 corners in the I/O slot at the back of your case. Locate the standoff screw near the middle of the case and gently lower your motherboard into place using the standoff and the rear I/O as reference points. All screw holes should align with the standoffs built into the 400C. Now grab a hold of the small parts box included with the case, it should be in the hard drive bay, and then use the motherboard screws, the screws that look like they have washers built into them, to secure the motherboard to the chassis. The center standoff I pointed to earlier won't require a screw. Take the rear bracket from the X61 kit and slide each of the placeholders toward its centermost position. Then slide it through the holes at the back of the motherboard. Take the standoff screws that have equal threading lengths on both sides and screw one end into each of the 4 bracket leads. At this point, the bracket should be secured to the motherboard. Thread the front bracket, which I've painted white, through the water block of the cooler and secure it with the small black ring included with the kit as well. If this part is confusing, you can check out my in-depth guide here. Once the cooler is prepped, we've got one last thing to do before officially mounting it. Thermal paste. I use Arctic Silver 5, but any $5 to $6 paste should be fine. Apply a modest amount over the CPU heat spreader and then secure the water block to the CPU by aligning the 4 threads from the standoffs with the inside holes of the front bracket. Turn with your fingers until the screws build up a significant amount of resistance at all 4 corners. Next, remove the hard drive cage so that we have plenty of access to modular ports on the power supply. With these installed and funneled through the back of the case, we'll need to mount our storage devices. Remove a 3.5-inch drive bay from the cage that we just took out and secure the hard drive by aligning the holes in the drive with the pins of the bay. A nice toolless feature this is. Now reinsert the cage with the hard drive and secure it from the back with the included screws. Grab your SSD, I strongly recommend you have one of these with this caliber of build, and simply secure it to the back of the Corsair 400C by sliding it into one of the 3 SSD trays integrated with the case. Another toolless feature here, go ahead and connect it to SATA power as well. Remove the dust filter at the top of the case and add any extra fans you have laying around. I've got an extra 2 Phanteks 140mm fans I'll be throwing into my rig, oriented downwards so the air is pulling into the case from the top. This in tandem with the fan intakes on the radiator should create a nice chamber of positive airflow within the 400C. If you prefer negative air pressure environments, these can be turned around and set to exhaust instead. If you've got a fan hub, secure this to the case as well. This one from Phanteks uses a Velcro adhesive to keep the hub in place. You'll want to connect the 4-pin lead from this hub to a 4-pin header on your motherboard, preferably a header labeled CHA1 or CHA2. Connect your 24-pin power cable from your power supply to the motherboard, as well as this 8-pin CPU power connector, which you can funnel through the top left slot in this case, and connect the USB 3.0 header as well. Kind of cable manage as you go. Using ASUS's included front I/O assistant, plug positive to positive and negative to negative of each wire lead with its corresponding pin on the assistant. With all wires secure, plug this assistant into the bottom right corner of the motherboard or wherever yours may be, refer to your manual. Grab a hold of your graphics card and peel off its plastic goodness, clear 2 PCIe slots at the back of the case, ensure the top large slot has its lock disengaged, and connect your graphics card. After securing it to the back with the included screws, connect your power cables, in this instance a single 8-pin and a single 6-pin. Finally, connect SATA cables from each of your drive devices to the motherboard, ensuring that your SSDs is inserted into the header labeled OS drive. Now, let's see how we did. there you have it, folks. The process is not all that complicated. Now, not to a layman, someone who's never built a PC before or who has never, I don't know, messed with the internals of a PC, the process does sound a bit daunting, but I assure you, if you follow this video here and the video in this card above me, the process is it's not difficult. Just take my word for it. If you don't believe me, take an old computer, disassemble it, put it back together, boom, you built a computer. It may not be a computer built from scratch, but you get my point. If you're curious about the performance of this PC, be sure to check out the card above me. If it's not there, it's because you're watching this video the day it was posted, and I appreciate your promptness, but otherwise, check it out. It's a unique combination, an i7-6700K paired with an R9 390, which is becoming very, very obsolete very, very soon. AMD has already told me that they're sending their RX 480 for a review, and you guys will be seeing that stacked up head-to-head against this 390, which is about $100 more than the RX 480, and we should expect similar performance between the two cards. So we'll see how Polaris stacks up against the GCN 1.2 architecture. I also have a future, well, it's already built, but I haven't actually edited the clips yet, a very, very old PC that I'm going to attempt to play games on. I haven't done that yet because I think it's going to be a very difficult process. But if you're like, Greg, what are you talking about? It's because you're not following me on Twitter. I invite you to do so. Follow me at SCST Salazar and stay in the loop here in the studio. I have a very old PC coming, literally under $100. I actually said it was 120 in the tweet, but that's because I added a few extra things that I eventually took away because I really didn't need them. So we're looking at an under $100 potato PC. Yes, it's a potato. Take my word for it. Be sure to like this video if you liked it. Give it a dislike if you felt the complete opposite, or if you hate everything about life. Click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and stay tuned for all of these cool, unique videos coming to the channel very soon, now that I have this new, bright and shiny editing rig behind me. This is Science Studio. Thanks for learning with us.